So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are honored to have our Fine Arts Department Industrial Fellow for School of the Arts, University Science Malaysia, Dr. Elham Shafaei, with us today, and she will be delivering an art talk regarding art management and curation. So a short introduction about Dr. Elham. She is an Iranian artist, papermaker, and researcher whose life and career have spanned across geographical boundaries. Dr. Elham completed her studio-based PhD in Fine Arts at University Science Malaysia, examining the role of melancholia in creative life. In 2017, she relocated to the United Arab Emirates, where she currently resides and continues her studio practice. Dr. Elham's art has been featured in various regional and international exhibitions. Dr. Elham is the co-founder and co-editor at Contemporary Identities, an international online art magazine gallery. Recently, she founded IE Projects, which is an online art foundation. She has initiated and continues to develop curatorial projects that endeavor to connect practitioners of contemporary art across the world. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Dr. Elham.
Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. And it's an honor to be here and talk about art management and curation with you and all the participants for this talk. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my slides. Okay. All right. The art attracts many kinds of people. Some, of course, are those who create or perform the arts themselves, but there are others who do the important task of making sure that the business side of the artworks runs smoothly. And some do both. Anyway, that's where art management comes in. Today, cultural institutions are facing important dilemmas in many aspects of their management. Over the past decades, a new figure has emerged, which is the art management. Imagine you go to work every day to connect artists with audiences, vision with reality, and mission with the money. That is what managers in the art do. They play an essential role in transforming the mind, lives, and communities through creative expressions. Art management is a critical job. It allows the artist to keep their focus where it needs to be on the art itself. Someone like me, who is an artist and has interest on managing art, like to take care of both sides. Some of the best candidates for art management are the artists themselves. Many artists now know that having a foundational knowledge in the business side of the arts world can help them better manage their own careers. Being an art management leads to critical thinking and problem-solving skills in relation to the business of the art. The art world is always in need with people with that unique blend of skills and interests. Museums, art galleries, theaters, opera houses, or all institutions are legal entities who need to meet legal, economical, and organizational requirements to exist and operate within society. Art management's role is to support art institutions, both for profit and non-profit, to meet those requirements. Besides, art institutions often face budget and technical constraints. For instance, any art institution has to be economically viable, manage staff, find funding, and etc. Hence, they have need for management to run properly. So, art management positions are in great need. You will be the one to make the institution actively happen. If you are fond of art and wish to help an art institution strives by developing its activities while making a decent living. Art management is a critical component to ensuring the public has access to great work of art and artistic performances. It's career worthy of consideration for those who love art and have a knack of working in business. An art manager oversees and directs the art-related activities of an organization. The discipline of art management combines the tools of business, such as management, marketing, planning, and etc., with the tools of audience and community building, such as fundraising, development, education, volunteerism, and etc., to build bridge between art, artists, and audiences. I'm the co-founder and co-editor at Contemporary Identities, online art magazine and gallery, who is a co-manager as well. Moreover, I am the founder and managing director at IAR Projects, Online Art Foundation. I take care of budget and staff management. I manage the art pieces, transport, sales, pricing, advertisement, and communication. These are some of the responsibilities I have to do. Recently, I was appointed as industrial fellow at the School of Arts, University Science Malaysia. This job is based on art management and curation. I plan and manage different events such as artist residencies, collaborative projects, inviting artists or academicians for seminars or talks, and curating exhibitions for the schools, for the lecturers, and for students, nationally and internationally. I'm managing all these activities by planning all the steps in details prior to the events. I must say, I enjoy doing all of this because of my love for art. I'm an artist myself, and I know what it needs to be done for artists to help them to be in the right path or what they need for their journey. I'm trying to improve my skills in art management to be a better help for the artist and art world. Okay, some like a few hints for whoever that are fans of being art manager. So definitely you should have people skill, business and financial management skill, work ethic and drive, creative problem solving and fast decision making, patience, which is the most important part of being manager, knowledge and education. Now we know the role of art management. I would like to talk about curation and curator's position. But before that, I'm going to answer these questions. My answer will lead us to the need for curation. How museum does start and why did it start? Modern museum began with wonder cameron or cabinets of wonders, assembled by curious nobles and scholars, emerging just as Europe was extending its reach into new continents and cultures. Wonder camerons were places to gather together, interpret, and show off the riches of the world. Some were literal cabinets fitted with cupboards and drawers. Others were rooms stuffed with animals, minerals, vegetables, and artistic treasure, much like our museum, and differently from church treasuries and displays of war booty. Wonder cameras were intended to deepen people's knowledge through the presentation of things. Okay. Now, nowadays, when people think of museums, art museum must often come to mind. Solemn places where visitors stand in silence contemplating neat rows of paintings. All museums have a history to tell. Museums are more than containers of things. Curators are responsible to show the complex reflections of the cultures that produce them, including their political, social structures, and systems of thought in the museums. So just I prepared some pictures of the museum for you in the slides. As you can see. Okay. What is curation and who is a curator? Curation is a field of endeavor involved that action or process of selecting, organizing, managing, assembling, presenting, and looking after the items in a collection or exhibition. Museums and galleries typically employ numbers of curators whose role is to acquire, care, and develop a collection. They will also arrange displays of collections and loaned works and interpret the collection in order to inform, educate, and inspire the public. The notion of a modern curator. Since the end of 20th century, the notion of a modern curator has been gradually evolving. Curator can be described as a manager who organizes the meeting between the spectator and a piece of art, takes care of the presentation of works, and can be a creator himself. In 2014, Hans Ulrich Obrist, a well-known Swiss art curator, critic, and historian of art, mentioned that the curator is like a good chef, which I strongly agree with. This means that the curator is responsible for everything, for the quality of the entire exhibition, the organization of work, and etc. He or she must be creative. In 2006, Lamia Krivite, a Lithuanian art critic, said that a curator is a generator of ideas who develop his idea and vision together with artists. A curator helps artists to express themselves. He can be responsible for many actions. The role of the curator during the last decades has been gaining more importance. According to Walter Holmes, an American museum director, gallerist, and curator of contemporary art, curation is not only the introduction of works to a certain institution, it is far more complex phenomenon. Francis Paul, an art historian, states that curation can provide a platform to realize artists' ideas and interests. It must be responsive to the situation in which it occurs, and it should address timely artistic, social, cultural, or political issues creatively. Therefore, the curator is an ideologist. He can find various topics and analyze them. He performs the work of an artist analyst. The curator is more and more an author who experiments with different formats, different ways of experiencing the arts and creating different meanings. Like an artist, the contemporary curator tests all formats and invents new ones. Everyone who craves to be an art curator should bear an insurmountable love for art and its history and have a certain set of professional skills required for this position. Usually there are two main categories for curation. Freelance curators and institutional curators. Freelance curators, they do not work in a specific institutions. The position of a freelance curator is usually related to the notion of the free creative form by avant-garde movements. They collaborate with galleries, funding institutions, and etc. Therefore, there are mediators between arts institutions and artists. Freelance curators are frequently engaged in independent activity. They curate what they want and what they like. Institutional curators. These are curators working for specific galleries, museums, and etc. They are dependent on the policy carried out by the institution, and they represent it. Therefore, their creative freedom can be slightly limited. The role of each curator in different museums or any other institutions is different. Currently, the curator is not only a custodian and supervisor, but also a kind of creator, art critic, and manager. He or she can be responsible for a lot of actions. Curation at the moment is an important part of the art industry. The Swiss curator Harold Zeman is considered to be the first freelance curator and the pioneer of many models of curation. He introduced a 100-day event instead of the usual model of the exhibition for Documenta 5, which was an exhibition or live project. Documenta is an exhibition of contemporary art which takes place every 5 years in Kassel, Germany. Since 1955, every Documenta is limited to 100 days of exhibition, which is why it is often referred to as the Museum of 100 Days. If you are interested, you can Google and you can find more information about Documenta, which is very interesting event. Therefore, the usual model of the exhibition, where the exhibition is temporarily placed in a museum, is thus changed. The curation practice starts to focus on the concept of exhibition making as an ongoing process. He organized performances and installations where several artists were working in one space. He recognized new art forms which had not been recognized before. Zeman initiated an exhibition which turned a gallery into a studio. The artists invited to produce installations and actions that expanded into the streets. More than 70 artists participated in it. There is a particular model of curation when the curator establishes a studio in a gallery and enables the artist to create and the works to be spread to the street. It can be said that the curator becomes a sort of a manager and the host of the festival. In the next exhibition, the curation was the theme. In this scenario, the curator provided the artist with the topic and the artist created artworks based on the theme of the curator. The field of curation becomes the field of a study of art. So I provided a few images for you here. And okay, there are various models of curation if you are interested. I'm going to introduce several of them here through this table. And I'm going to just briefly explain each of those. Curators can choose different ways of curation. The models of self-reflexive, sampling, traditional, decentralization curation, virtual curation, artist curator, collaborative curatorial platform. Okay, the self-reflexive and working between theory and practice. The curator is simultaneously initiating, supporting, and evaluating projects. Sampling, the curator samples works, actions, and ideas in things. Traditional exhibition is a temporary museum. The curator only hangs the works and supervises the exhibition. Decentralization curation, the community decides what to exhibit. The audience is involved into the development of the exhibition. Virtual curation, the curator works not only with real works of art or in the gallery, but on the internet as well. He curates internet works as well. Artist curator, the roles of an artist and the curator are merged. The artist is the curator. Collaborative curatorial platform. Co-curating takes place. The gallery creates certain conditions which brings together the ideas of many people co-curating. It is like a co-production, only in the field of curation. Frequent model of curation is the artist curator. The artist performs not only the function of the artist, but that of the curator as well. The artist is the first producer, and the curator is the second producer. Other models of curation can be used simultaneously. The self-reflective or reflection model requires active curation because the work of the curator is not limited to the theory. He initiates and assesses the project as well. It is not enough for him or her to hang the works for display in the exhibition and supervise them, as it is the case with the usual mode of curation or sampling, where everything is sampled. All of this is included into the self-reflection model, as well as beginning of or a part of curation. It is noteworthy that curation can be virtual as well, which is very common nowadays. There are virtual galleries and museums, and this model can supplement other models by creating additional benefits. In decentralized curation, the art community participates in the development of the exhibition and decides what to exhibit instead of leaving this decision to the curator or to the institutions. Therefore, in centralized curation, curators and the institutions decide what to exhibit. According to the notion of curator, the freelance curator is currently not only the intermediary and the one who generates idea, but also a manager. This means that it is purposeful to include certain aspects of art management, such as planning, organizing, selecting, leading, communicating, relating, problem solving, decision making, negotiating, training, controlling, rewarding, evaluating, and innovating. So there are various existent models of curatorship, as I know, and I just could show you here on the table. But curators constantly discover and create new ones. Each of them employs a model that suits them the best. Sometimes I use the artist curator model as a practicing artist who also curates shows and run nonprofit virtual spaces from which I exhibit artist works. The artist curator tends to remain outside the commercial arts world and within a community of artists, often ones with whom they studied or of a similar generation. For some artist curators, it is the freedom to create art, control its output, and have a say in how it's exhibited that appeals. It is a way of gaining exposure for the art. I always had a strong interest on curation. I curated for the first time in 2008. It was a group exhibition with whom I studied my BA. I showed my work and other graduated friends' artworks 1 year after the graduation from our school. I aimed to show the serious challenges everyone faced with and the way to become professional artists. I always imagined myself in a curator position to overview my own art since the beginning. In 1990s, the art scene in London was re-energized by artist-run exhibitions and galleries, taking advantages of the cheap, empty shops, offices, and warehouses, which the collapse of the stocks and property market in 1987 had made readily available. Young artists were able to create exhibiting opportunities for themselves outside the established gallery system. Perhaps the best known of these initiatives was Freeze, an exhibition organized by a group of young artists led by art student Damien Hirst which is a well-known contemporary artist, in an empty London Port Authority building in London's Docklands. Freeze was a phenomenal success and was the springboard for the careers of many of artists known as the young British artists. It is a good example of an artist-run space. And I can say Penang has a lot of potential for this artist-run spaces. And if you are really interested, you can, just after this COVID, or when the situation becomes a little bit better, just you can try that opportunities. So, as an artist-run space is a gallery or other facility operated or directed by artists, frequently circumventing the structures of public centers, museums, or commercial galleries, and allowing for a more experimental program. Contemporary Identities Online Art magazine was the outcome of my interest for curating. In 2019, I had the idea to extend the contemporary identities activities and add the online gallery to the platform as a virtual artist-run space. In 2020, we could manage to add the online gallery, and ever since we curate and exhibit artist works in CI's gallery. Artists propose their projects and artworks, and we provide a space to them to show their works virtually as an artist-run online space. I also try to focus on my own curatorial projects as an independent artist curator. I have my own way of making exhibitions. I may receive invitation to curate, or sometimes I propose exhibitions both physically with the established and online galleries. And my curatorial projects aim to connect practitioners of contemporary art across the world. For instance, I curated an online exhibition in 2020 for Richard Poe Fine Arts in Kuala Lumpur and contemporary identities, entitled Chantam Combine. The online exhibition brought together 5 artists from Malaysia and 5 international artists whose varied and distinctive works were somehow harmonious. Foreseeing many of the ideas addressed in this exhibition, I sought a unique connection to pair each Malaysian artist's work with one outside the geopolitical, social, and cultural domain. I searched for the work's ability to infiltrate instinctively the facet of physical form and appearance while allowing other truths and realities to surface. I had a spontaneous and dynamic approach to pair the distinct textures, forms, materials, and colors that reveal the artist's signature through their different styles of works. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to talk about factors of successful independent curation. A freelance curator must not only be aware of the history of art, but take interest in current political affairs as well. He cannot dissociate himself from the event that happened in the world. He must have a wide vision. An important place in successful curation is, of course, taken by the artist. There would be no exhibition without artists. Hicks notices that curators of contemporary art do not have original ideas. Therefore, they have to listen to the artist. Their goal is to find an exceptional work of art. The curator must think not only about his career, but he should think about how he will introduce the works of the artist to the audience. It can be said that the exhibition is a type of project, and its management requires certain knowledge that have already been discussed today. In conclusion, if a freelance curator wants to be successful, he or she must follow this formula. broad spectrum of understanding, knowledge of management, art, and etc., plus vision, plus artist, plus goal, plus work, plus audience, and that would be equals to a successful curation. Okay, so I've done here, and I'm ready to answer any question. Maybe I can just stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So there is a question from our Facebook. Someone asked, what are the differences in challenges for a curator if they need to curate for outdoor exhibition or indoor exhibition, and what aspect need to be focused on and resolved?
Okay, this is not about advantages or disadvantages. When I mentioned that example of Z-Man as a curator who done something differently, you know, that is different. That was the original idea of him. It was something happened for the first time. Okay, so just I cannot say this is advantage, it has advantages or it has disadvantages. It depends on the original idea, or it depends on how the curator is going to propose the project and is going to deliver the meaning to the audience. So just you always you should do the research prior to any curational project. So you have to think what you want to do and not just go and follow others, how the way they've done it. So it has to have a strong relation of meaning, of connections, between the artworks and the way you are going to curate and the way you are going to ask your audience to come in. It doesn't matter inside or outside the gallery to look at the artworks. So I hope I could answer the question. You are mute, Anna.
Sorry. So I think yeah. So I think you've answered the question. That's the only question from Facebook so far. And the one who asked the question said thank you. Thank you for your answer. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I have a question, sorry, from my part. So how long does it usually take to curate one exhibition?
It depends on the project, how huge the exhibition is, how many artists you invited to be part of the exhibition. Depends. It is solo exhibition or it is group exhibition. It depends on the institutions or the gallery you are going to propose this. As I explained, it's a different ways of curating. One is like a freelance curator, just having or developing its own project, and the other one is like institutional curator. So it depends on it depends on which place, or just for whom you are going to do the curation. But I can say, just because it requires a lot of planning, and researching and gaining knowledge about the project. So minimum of 3 months, I think, if the project is not a big project. Or sometimes, just for Biennale, or, just they need 2 years prior to start, just planning and curating, or, just it depends on the project.
So it's 3 months of research before doing it, or is it like 3 months of research
It's a
and
minimum,
preparation?
yes, it's minimum, and it depends on it depends on a lot of different steps. You have to go through. Just because it's not just easy. You come and say, okay, I want to curate this exhibition. It's not just like that. So you have to plan, you have to manage, you have to invite artists, you have to just first of all you have to create the context the meaning, just what you want to do, or what you want to, just go with this project. You have to approach the gallery if you are a freelancer curator. And then, just you have to propose, and then they have to do approval. And after that, just you have to take care of the budget. You have to, just think of like if you want to have sponsor, a lot of different steps you have to go through with, and to manage, to organize and small exhibition, just 3 months, it might be good for that.
So there's a question from Facebook from Dr. Tatiana Fauzi. She's asking if the scenario is the curator also is a participant of the exhibition, how do you find balance and here in order for a successful exhibition? I think she missed here, but she's basically asking how do you find balance in order for a successful exhibition if you're a participant?
Okay, just that is a different, you have to me, it's like, I don't know about others, but I'm just sharing my own experience, because just I curated 2 exhibitions already as an artist curator, and I also participate in the exhibition. So just you have to play 2 different, totally separate roles. One as an artist, okay, you produce your own art, and one as a curator, just because just when you set your curatorial project, you know what you want. Okay, so just what sort of arts and who to invite, and just for other artists if it's like a group exhibition, or what the theme of the exhibition is, all of this. So just you have to oversee the whole exhibition, your work also included, as a whole, as in general, you have to see all of it, you have to oversee. So it's nothing like just because you're an artist and you are the curator that gonna impact just the effect of of the project or of the works, or not being fair or not being successful. Because just in both fields, if you want to be successful as an artist and as a curator, you have to just try to have 2 different parts, build 2 different parts in your brain. So I think just for me it's like that. For others, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's easier that way, and it's more organized in a sense.
Yes.
So we have one more question from in a chat box. You find it hard to handle where
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
sorry. I'll repeat the question again. Do curators find it hard to handle exhibitions when the pandemic first hit, where physical exhibitions are not allowed?
Just the pandemic brought a lot of limitations, and but at the same time, it brought some opportunities. Like, for example, I'm sharing my own experience. I did, I start actually like, just be more focused on curating ever since the, just the pandemic starts. Because, just it brought some sort of like convenience to me. Instead of like, for example, I fly to another country or to another city, or, just I was sitting in my home office, and I would just, just trying to manage everything from inside my, just home office, which was convenient. I had to save energy, save money, and maybe save time. But on the other hand, just of course, it is advantage. It is like privilege when you can travel, you can meet people, you can go and see the artworks in person. So just and then this is something you cannot really say. Just it was bad or it was good. It brought some opportunities and it took some opportunities. So, but for me, it was not bad. I mean, I'm not, I cannot say it was bad for me because, you know, just it made me more focused. And, you know, I just could manage my projects, even though during the pandemic.
Yeah. So there's another question from Facebook, which is from Veronica Chen. She says, "Hi, Dr. Ilham. May I know where and how do you find the idea or content to create an exhibition?"
Okay, so hi, and I don't know if you are artist or not, Veronica. I think it should comes from the sensation, you know, about your personality. If you are a freelancer curator, you know, just you create your own projects for curation. As I mentioned also in my presentation, so the self-reflexive is one of the way. So it is very important. So just, and you have to be aware of whatever as a contemporary curators or artists, you know, just every day, everything is changing. It's very fast, you know, just whatever, you know, just I produced in 5 years ago and now it's not contemporary anymore, you know, just because it's moving really fast and we have to be updated. We have to be sensitive about whatever is happening, political, social, cultural, whatever is happening around us. And we can get ideas like an artist. Artists get ideas from all of this, from the surrounding, from the life. So if you are a curator or you want to start curation, you have to be someone sensitive and get the content and meaning from your surrounding. And think about, you know, just you are the mediator between the artist and the audience. So how you want to bring that idea to the audience and how the way you want to deliver that in a right way, in a way you have in your mind to the audience. So
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting and useful in a way. Well, so we have next question from Amirul Alwi. What is your advice for a new young curator wannabe who doesn't have knowledge or experience in handling any exhibition?
okay, so my advice is, first of all, you have to love, you have to be, you know, love curating. You should be in love with art. Okay, you should be patient. You should be passionate about learning and gaining new knowledge. I think having knowledge is very important if you have those two before. So having knowledge or gaining knowledge is very important. Going and visiting to art exhibitions physically, or now is very convenient. You can sit inside your studio, I mean, office, home, from your phone. You can just have access to a lot of virtual exhibitions. To me, one of the most important thing, it was, you know, I used to travel a lot before this pandemic started. And yeah, of course, I visited most of the, you know, just wherever I travel, I visited most of the galleries and the, you know, museums. And, you know, I paid attention to the way they even set up the works, display the works, you know, the selection of the works and reading of the wall statements for the exhibition and collect all of those catalogs or, you know, just whatever I could get. Or even if I was not able to travel, I asked my friends, whoever they travel, to bring those for me and look at those. Okay, so just we have to we have to improve ourselves. We have to study. Just there's a lot of books out there, and they are very like they start from the basic of curation. So you can find those books, order online, Amazon will deliver to you. So, or just even if you're still in pandemic, I mean in the lockdown. Yeah. So this is my basic advice for a young talent who wants to be a curator.
So it involves a lot of exploring other exhibitions as well, right? To learn how to be a
Yes.
curator and everything. Yeah.
Yes, of course. There's a lot of just hard works. But if you are in love with whatever you are doing, so that will turn to passion. It's not just a job. You will enjoy doing it. So that is very important, and that will help to be successful in whatever you are doing.
So we have a next question from sorry, in the chat box from Ting. So have doctors seen any creative or any virtual exhibition during the pandemic happening that brings out wow factor? Meaning that something that has an exhibition that has come across as very unique so far in a virtual exhibition recently.
There's a lot of virtual exhibitions, but what I can suggest go visit contemporary identities.
Contemporary identities.
There is a very interesting, actually not just because that's my platform, but this the exhibition we have right now, and we extended that is a work of a Portuguese artist, which is very interesting, and he did the work during the pandemic and the lockdown. And so it was very interesting the way he was, just doing the work, because his work is some sort of installation. And then, during the lockdown, I had like some time, just you were allowed to go out to, just to do shopping or whatever. So that's when he went out and to do his project. And this is very interesting to me. So yeah, there is a lot. I don't really remember right now the name. I mean, my brain doesn't really work. But if you're interested, you can just go visit this exhibition right now. We already extended that. And then if you go to the past exhibitions, you can have access to the e-catalog of the previous exhibitions there.
Wow. I think we can all go and check that out. Contemporary identities. Interesting. So there's a question from Mu Mei Chui. Did you face any difficulties when inviting artists to take part in the exhibition, or difficulties in managing artworks?
Not so far. Yeah, it's not an easy job, you have to think about everything prior to do the action. But maybe I was fortunate, I was lucky, and I haven't faced any difficulties yet. But sometimes, for example, during it creates stress, of course. It's a lot of stress for me, because I'm a stressful person. So I'm very like I want everything to be perfection in a perfect way. So that creates some stress. So like, for example, sometimes the artists or the writers, or just some sort of just collaborators, they don't follow the deadline. For example, I give the deadline till 15 July, and then I still just don't receive anything. So that creates, because that does not involve me and dealing with them, because I have to get that and then send it to the website, whoever, you know, managing the website or whoever in charge of the design, you know, this is a lot of process and works. And so just punctuality is very important to me. And I think this is the most difficult issues I ever faced so far.
Yeah, I guess it's more about the management of the artworks that makes it a little difficult, right? And having to have, I mean, a better communication with the artist as well. I mean, if you miscommunicate, then the artist will be misinformed, and then the artwork transportation will be tough. The work will be, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So everything since the beginning, I really believe in that. Since the beginning, everything should be black and white. It should be clear. You know, then you won't, you know, face any issues. And I really believe in that black and white thing, because, you know, just I normally have a meeting with the artist or whoever I'm going to work with, and then I will document everything and send it to that person. In case something happens and that person doesn't follow, you know, I have that documented already. So, you know, just it depends on the style of management or managing things. So just I believe in that, you know, just like everything should be clear since the beginning, so, and have the document, or, you know, just to prove.
Well, sorry, just a question right off from my mind, right?
Okay.
So are curators in a way responsible when artworks get damaged or go missing
Um,
along the way?
Curator, you know, just when you are doing an exhibition, normally, you know, the curator should ask for the insurance. You know, the artworks, they should have insurance. So that insurance is going to be provided. It depends on the organization, or it depends on the institution. So either the artist has to apply and get the insurance, or sometimes, you know, just the institution, they support that insurance for the artworks. So, you know, just when the insurance thing happens, so the curator is not going to be, um, you know, in charge of the damage of the work.
Right, right. Okay. So here's a question from Tang David. In regards to curatorial responsibility, is censorship a major obstacle in your geographical area of practice? And if yes, how do you balance it with the integrity of the exhibition to present a vision or message as intended? Which interest should take priority over the other?
Of course, you know, just when you are living in somewhere, like for example, I'm living in Islamic country. Okay, so just which I cannot show everything, you know, because I would be in trouble, or is not, because it's not in the law, you know, just and it's not accepted by the law to show like nudity, or, you know, just some sensitive content. Since the beginning, I don't accept those applications, and I explained to the artist, you know, I'm not able, because of, you know, just because my magazine or my gallery is based in here. I'm not able to accept this, which is not good, you know, just because sometimes the artworks are very strong. But okay, I have my limitations also, because I don't want to do something to create some difficulties, right? But you know, just my criteria, a part of this, because this is something, you know, just is very clear, and we are not accepting this sort of words since the beginning. And but, you know, just we have criteria to accept artworks. Normally, like for example, me myself, I like, you know, just progressive contemporary artworks. Our focus is on contemporary artworks, like experimental artworks. So, you know, just if someone sends works like a classic, and someone sends works is like contemporary, of course, they'll take the contemporary, because our vision is clear since the beginning, and we mention it everywhere. And of course, the quality of the works is very important.
Right. Right. So, sorry, there's a next question from Prof. Sarina. Do you think curators need to equip themselves with art history knowledge?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, do you think curators need to equip themselves with art history knowledge?
Yes, of course. Art history is very important. And whoever is curators that are working in, especially in a museum, just they should have, normally they have degree in art history. So it is very important. And also for like freelance curators, the history is something they should look back, even like a history, maybe not like very long history for freelancer contemporary curators, but the history of the contemporary curation. So of course, history is very important, and yeah, each and every curators, they have to equip themselves with a history, even just like a just longer history or like shorter history. It depends on the field of their interest, and it depends on where they are going to work as a curator. They have to have the knowledge.
Okay. So, I think that's the last question for today. I will pass the session back to Ting.
All right, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Doctor. So, Doctor, a quick question. If there's any other questions to be asked, can the audience or anyone, can they contact you personally? Can they do so?
Actually, I don't have a Facebook, but I don't know how it's gonna work. They can ask me maybe on Instagram if it is possible, or they can maybe write me an email. But I will provide it to you, and then you see which one is better, and you can just share with the audiences.
Sure. So thank you, Dr. Ilham. So I will quote back what Doctor has said today. So as Doctor said just now, a curator is to be said to be an ideologist, an author who creates different meanings to different art exhibitions. So a curator plays an important role when it comes to an exhibition coming out with a theme in consideration with the particular artist's art. Art curation is a critical component to ensure that the public has access to these great works of art and artistic performances as well. So art management combines the tool of business with the tools of to let audience and community build a bridge between art, artists, and audience. The COVID pandemic has led curators and also artists come up with a new way to exhibit their own artworks, which is the virtual art galleries and many, many more. So it is a brand new experience to every artist, and how do they exhibit their artworks to maximize the audience experience when they come and have a look at all these artworks. So yes, I think that is all that I want to conclude about our talk today. Thank you so much to Doctor for giving us such an educational yet fun talk. Yes, thank you. So before ending,
No, I
thank you,
just want to
Doctor.
say thank you for sharing your time with us, Doctor.
Yes. So yes, before ending our session with just a moment, I'll share my screen. So a quick information, we will be having an art talk regarding stories and reflection of globalized art world by two of our ICAP panels, who is Mr. Richard Koh and Ms. Jana Radi tomorrow, which is moderated by Dr. Ilham. So please do stay tuned and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Stay safe and good luck for your final exams. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.